Doc Sanchez here. Welcome to another episode of Only the Ladder is Real, the show where I try and confuse Game of Thrones fans searching for clips and chronicle my journey up and down the rank ladder of AOE 2. So, very fun one for you today. Funnily enough, I recently posted on Reddit a meme relating to Spanish pickers on Nomad, and as luck would have it, I drafted Nomad and came up against a player playing as the Spanish. So, on a Nomad start, you start with 3 villages scattered across the map. You need to build your town centre before you can start creating any more villages, unlike in other maps where you begin with the town centre already built. Today's players, we have myself, Doc Sanchez, here in the blue, and we have Castillo Ontucara in the red. Now, I have no idea what my pronunciation is like. I've never spoken or taken any Spanish lessons. However, I did a few years of French and a few years of Latin. I've watched a few seasons of Narcos, and that gave me a little suspicion as to what this name might be. So the meme I recently posted relates to Supremacy, the unique tech for the Spanish whereby you can get stronger villages, and it is researched in the castle. Some users pointed out that a common approach for players picking Spanish is to drop a castle on your face as soon as possible. Bit of a spelling mistake here, but I guessed what was going to be happening based off of my opponent's nickname there. And so I'm thinking there's going to be a castle coming my way at some point during this game. Now, I'm playing as the Malians. It's my favourite civ. It's really good for Nomad because it allows you to build house, dock, and the town centre at the start, and then you can very quickly get onto your first fishing ship. And you can see I still have quite a lot of, still have a bit of wood remaining, enough for another house, even after building those buildings. The reason for that is that Malians have cheaper wood buildings, and that starts from the Dark Age. I'm just going to have a little look at the scouting now. So with Nomad, you have a very big map. There are lots of resources. You want to get your town centre up against a wood line if you can, to start building fishing ships. Because the more fishing ships you build in the Dark Age, the stronger your food eco is from the early game, because you can build up the fishing ships while you are also building villages from your town centre. But also as well, there's a lot of other resources on the map. If we look at the main map, we've got lots of stones and golds. You can see boars and berries, deer, more berries, more boars, another boar up here, and not so much gold on this map, potentially. So we've got one spot here, one spot here. Near to our starts, I've got a pile over to the right here. This is the nearest pile for the opposition. You'll see sheep scattered around. I'm not going to be taking the sheep. I don't know where I read it, but I read somewhere someone saying that the player who takes their sheep on Nomad for food will always lose. And actually, it's something that's actually held up quite true for me over time in the games that I've played against the AI at least. The sheep make an excellent scouting unit, so you don't spawn with a scout at the start of the game, and you can use your sheep just to patrol around the map, try and find more resources and try and find the enemy. A sheep is only worth 100 food, and it does decay as you take it. So in some ways it is worth getting onto the more high value foods such as your boars, and get on to fishing both the deep fish with the fishing ships and the shore fish with your villages where appropriate. On the definitive edition, you can drop this off here at the dock. Let's have a look at what my opponent is up to. So they've done some scouting as well. They've done some sheep scouting, but it looks like they've either sent them back or lost one at some point because the trail ends there. I think I took that sheep. And my opponent is on boar, deer, and chopping some wood. They are now going also out to dock. A little bit later though. We are 7 game minutes in. Spanish do build faster, so the dock will be up nice and quick. However, you want to have aimed to have got the dock up a bit quicker, because I actually have 2 fishing ships. Whether or not it's happened yet, I'm not sure, but I did get a fishing ship, unfortunately, stuck here. Here it is, my 3rd fishing ship. It spawned between the dock and the shoreline, so I had to choose between just leaving it there, deleting it. Maybe the villager was blocking it in. I'll be really disappointed if that was the villager blocking it and not the dock. But in the end, I delete it for pop space. So unfortunately, I didn't have those out so quick. However, I've already got 3 functional fishing ships on the deep fish, while my opponent still just queuing theirs up. Looking at the economy-wise, so I actually have more vills out on the field and more fishing ships, and that's due to my town centre going up a little bit faster. It's a bit of a tricky decision on these maps. Sometimes you want the optimal position with your TC near some other resources, so this spot over here would have been very strong. But the longer that you wait to get your TC up, the slower it takes to start producing your first villages. Now, knowing that there was a potential castle coming my way, one of the things that you can do to try and protect yourself, which is quite important, is to spread your eco out. Then it minimises the impact of a castle in one particular area. Hopefully, yep, I sorted out that village there. So, having some fish eco, taking wood down here, and this area around my TC I'll be expanding away from as we go along. It's funny, because Spanish are picked so frequently for their faster buildings, so they get the TC up quicker and the dock up quicker and the castles up quicker. It's a very good civ for Nomad. But funnily enough, Nomad, when you look at the size of the map, how many resources there are, it's not necessarily the best map for castle drop. Because if, say, they picked a nice position here and dropped their castle, yes, they could deny this gold and stone, potentially the berries if they have bracer. However, I can just relocate over to here and just pick up all the same stuff. Now, I actually wasn't aware that the opponent's TC was there. I was sending my vills north towards these berries up here. And I was thinking about getting another dock up in the corner. Again, I'm thinking about spreading out, but I accidentally found the opponent's TC. That's actually a real benefit for me, knowing where the enemy is. The enemy, really unluckily, has scouted around where I am, but can't see precisely my location. And that will help, because if I'm thinking that there's going to be a castle coming my way, I'm going to want to be aggressive at some point, a little earlier in this game than Castle Age, to try and prevent that smooth transition into building the castle. If you look at the resources, we both actually have the resources to click up to feudal, and I do so there. On Nomad, though, often there's a bit of a delay getting to the next stage, because if you build your TC next to berries or wood, often then you don't end up building a mill so quickly, or a lumber camp, and then as a result you are stuck with requiring buildings. So the dock counts as one building, but my opponent would need a barracks, a mill, or a lumber camp in order to advance to the next stage, and they have not built that one yet. So since the last time I played, I'm not sure of my opponent's elo, but I've had a terrible run of luck today. Lost quite a lot of games in a row, so my elo has dropped down to sub 900 now, which is understandable given how low my APM is. If you look though, I'm actually quite surprised. Usually I have a bit more TC idle time, but I'm on 22 seconds here. Idle eco time 3.5, that's not bad. So with Nomad, often you use villagers to scout. If we look at my scouting intel here, I've used sort of paths here, but I've got some ideas of where there's some resources are. My one concern though when I started this was I could only see one gold, and that was one of the reasons I was sending my villagers up to the north. But I see this gold, I start building some buildings around here because I'm thinking of potentially walling towards this mill, just to deny expansion in this direction, and potentially to set up some military to hit the berries and hit this side of the opponent's eco. So I'm in the feudal age now. I noticed that my opponent has a bit less of a score lead than me, so I'm thinking safe to go for eco, try and solidify being ahead in eco, and then transitioning to military afterwards. My fishing ship scouted the opponent's dock here, and because I'm in feudal, I'm thinking they're still in Dark Age. I've got some time to get a fire galley out up against the opponent's fishing ships, maybe damage their eco over there. And again, I'm trying to do everything that I can to hold up their castle time, since they've revealed to me with their name what they're planning to do to me once they reach there. So just as the opponent hits feudal, my first fire galley is going to come out. Not the most efficient with the fishing ships here. You have to refresh them quite regularly. A Spirit of the Law video indicates that without gill nets, it becomes really quite inefficient to fish with fishing ships once they have to travel more than 6 tiles from the dock. So what I need to do is build a new dock down over here, which I will go on to do later. Here we go, fire galleys out, starting to take down the fish. They're going for 1-2. However, I already have a galley and a fire galley coming out. I did this, I wasn't sure whether they'd go for a demo or something like that, so I thought mix and match, have a galley, can also allow me to harass shoreline villagers. Got a bit of idle time here, trying to focus on a couple of things at once. TC idle time has now gone up for me as well. Brought up some barracks here. I'm thinking, although Spanish, if they get to Castle Age, they are very good with their conquistadors, but they're very unlikely to go for any kind of archer play, so I'm thinking I'll get some infantry out ready, just to harass the opponents. I'm also beginning to spread out. You can see over here to the left, I've got some more lumber camps over here. Mill on the berries. Now, berries are the slowest form of food. Their gather rate's very slow. However, it's very hands-free. Unlike hunting, your villagers go idle less often. You can see I'm also building a mill over here. And I'm thinking in the later game, if I start transitioning to some spread-out farm eco, it's nice to have mills sort of all over the map. Now, my opponents decided they've hit the feudal age, they want to do some damage. They're building a couple of scouts. It might have been worth waiting slightly longer to get some blacksmith upgrades or a couple more scouts. You can see they have plenty of food there. It may just be to scout the map as well, although they will come forward shortly. Yeah, just having 2 scouts isn't too much of an offensive force. I'm starting to build up my man-at-arms, getting ready for a bit of a push. And I'm actually noticing at this point that I have my food to click up to Castle Age, and I've actually been gathering stone. I relocated some villagers towards stone, so that I'll be ready with a counter castle should my opponent come at me with one. So I'm thinking, let's get some buildings, including a market. I can sell some wood and stone if I don't have the gold yet. My opponent, actually, I didn't notice this at the time, they're thinking to try and take this gold. They're not aware that my mining camp is already on there. But I'm thinking, let's get a Castle Age, then potentially defensive castle. So yeah, I'm still spreading out around the map. Not quite sure where I sent this villager to go. I think I'm just scouting, looking for more gold. So I'm starting to get a bit more vision over the whole of the map. It's useful to do so on Nomad. It's easy to think that, yes, there is some villager inefficiency, but if you can get more efficient resources like the boars, then actually it does help out in time. Opponents now found my TC, they've stolen a sheep, they've gone for this vill. But yeah, I've left this eco, so they found my main base, but there's not really very much going on over there at this time. I tend to delay farms if my fishing eco is safe, which it has been. Just because, again, a bit low maintenance. Once you've built the fishing ships, you then don't need to invest wood for a little while, apart from redocking. And I figure if I've got a castle coming at me, then it's not worth having all of my eco spread out around the town centre, because that's very likely where they're going to go. Scouts just being a bit annoying, but as it's only one and there's no blacksmith upgrades, I'm just rushing it down with some vills. Now I've clicked Castle Age. At this point I know where my opponent is. They've been a bit annoying with scouts, but otherwise they haven't done anything too offensive. I know I've got some troops to support a push, so now I'm thinking, you wanted to drop a castle on my face? Well, time to turn the tables, and I'm thinking, let's get a castle down on them. As I've said, I can see quite a lot of the map going on, and I can see that they have not expanded, particularly in any other directions. They're very much focused up in this corner. So with that in mind, I'm thinking castle drop is going to be very effective. My opponent now, they've clicked up to Castle Age. They've put some vills onto stone, however, they've taken a little while to get to that point, so they are not ready for their own castle just yet. Interesting as well, I've got some eco upgrades, not the farming upgrades, but got the wood cutting upgrade, double bit axe, got the wheelbarrow, and I've started to research some blacksmith techs for the infantry, whereas my opponent has not researched actually any economic techs. And I think given the game length, given how passive I've been, That's really hurt their castle time. And after I dealt with those initial fish, there has been some relocation of the fishing eco, but again, it's not very efficient. I did redock once, but now my mind's switching to the offensive. My opponent realizes they see the castle here now. They realize what I've done. And 11's in chat here. Bit of a raid with the infantry. Luckily there was this sort of narrow area here, so even if they had some offensive military units, I just popped a house down there just to help. And now castle's going up, longsword's coming in. I'm going to be maybe thinking about some more blacksmith techs in a moment. But at this point, red is in a difficult spot. I couldn't resist. I had to say something. And here I'm raiding with the longswords. I've seen that basically nothing's coming out of their military to oppose me, so I might as well do some damage over here. I was worried about them relocating their eco, as that was my plan the whole time, or maybe rushing up a defensive castle. So I'm sticking to these villas here. They are putting a town centre up. This would maybe have been quite a good spot for a defensive castle. Protects the stone, protects the gold, will allow them to get more castles, protects its wood line. I mixed in just 1 or 2 spears with my longswords, just because I thought knights could be coming out, and they might be useful. Fighting with vills now, but unfortunately supremacy is not in, so these are going down pretty quickly. I'm getting handcart there. Again, I'm knowing that when I'm focusing on military, I'm not very good at macroing, so I like to just get the eco upgrades nice and quick so that I can be as hands-free with eco as possible. And there's the GG. So you can see this TC is going to go down. Truthfully, my opponent could have probably played on quite a bit longer. They've got quite a lot of wood, enough for more fishing ships, enough to initiate some farm eco. There's plenty of space out over here. However, I think just the thought of trying to stay in the game, knowing that I've probably got some eco to back this up, having protected my fish, it might have been too daunting an ask. So we look at the stats here. So I was quicker to feudal and castle age. My military slowly ramped up. Army high of only 4. And unfortunately with Nomad, as tempting as it is to try and rush down castle age, you've got to build some military to defend what you have. It's quite an open map. It's really tricky to wall. There's a possibility, even if you did wall, of some sort of transport play. And with Spanish, without getting any... Although they have quicker buildings, they don't have fantastic eco bonuses. You really need to be getting your economy techs. So you see here, they did have more gold, actually, than me. Like I say, I only located 2 spots by the end of the game. And I didn't have a huge number of villages. However, more wood, more food, more stone. Bit more exploration going on here. And at this point I would have been thinking about shifting on to wonders. Quite interesting here, so I did have quite a bit more, 800 more food collected, yet I had less fishing ships. We had the same max number of villages, and that just shows actually that you really need to make sure that your fishing ships stay as efficient as possible in order to consistently bring in the food at an appropriate rate. So that was the game. I thought I'd bring that one to you. As soon as I saw the name, I knew that this was going to be a fun match, and it really was. Until next time.